тебе так думал, просто что ты умеешь, что ли, думаешь, один такой, что ты не понимаешь. Ну не понял. Да нет, ну наоборот, значит, документ наоборот, да, правильно. Ну наоборот, значит, правильно. Сталкер. Эй. Всем хлоу. Всем пока. Знаешь, в чем дело? Вот это звук. Скоро он делает. Ну это. Ну не, он всегда так. Есть охота иметь. Сейчас слово. За мужик там. Непонятно.
Today I'm here at Kim's Pianos in Stanton, California, which is one of my all-time favorite piano stores for incredibly high-end, high-quality acoustic pianos. What's amazing about Kim's Pianos is that while many dealerships, and of course I won't name any names, and in fact I can't even think of any off the top of my head right now, but I have experienced them in the past, who deal with high-end pianos who don't want anyone touching them and they put all their rubbish on the piano. Kim's is the exact opposite. Benjamin Kim and other people who work here encourage people to play the instruments even if they're outside of their budget. Simply to explore and enjoy a majestic instrument is truly a treat, and Benjamin Kim understands this and welcomes anyone and everyone to play the instruments at their store, which is amazing. And he makes a few little special exceptions for me, like this particular piano, which has been sold. And it's pretty much universal rule to not play a sold piano, but this one is so special and so rare and such a good piano that
Думаете, что учить слова долго и скучно? Спорим, вы больше не захотите учить слова как
Benjamin Kim is letting me do a video on it. So thank you very much for that.
Да, ничего ты не делаешь. наоборот движение, да ничего. Ну нет, себя должно. Что ты
And let's talk about the piano in front of us. But first, I just have to show, look at the beautiful pianos behind us. Look at that. It's so cool. But back to this. This is a Busenhofer Imperial, the 290, the largest, widest acoustic piano that Busenhofer makes. They are an Austrian brand who has been around for over 100 years. And a while ago, there was some controversy with Yamaha purchasing the company, and people thought perhaps the instruments wouldn't be as good as they once were. And that is not true. Pianos have been better than ever, and I believe this to be a little bit before Yamaha bought Busenhofer. This was made in 1991, and I believe Yamaha bought them in the mid-2000s. So this is an interesting instrument from an interesting time during Busenhofer's life. I think, if my memory serves me correct, this was between the time when Kimball had Busenhofer and Yamaha bought Busenhofer. It's been a while since I've done that research, so maybe my years are off. Maybe that in-between time was narrower than I believed. But nonetheless, regardless of who owned Busenhofer at the time, this is a phenomenal instrument. The piano was from 1991, and it actually has been slightly reconditioned by the amazing folks at Meyer. They run a piano restoration company, and they do everything from full restorations of antique instruments from the 1890s to mild refurbishings of fantastic instruments that are in good condition. I believe they redid the finish of the instrument, replaced a few strings, and maybe redid the action, re-regulated it. It probably didn't need very much. Regardless of what work they did, both the inside and the outside of the piano look amazing, and the piano sounds great and feels great to play. So first I want to show you some of the visual things about the 290 that make it really, really striking. Then we'll come back and we'll talk about what it's like to play, because that is awesome. So this is a head-on view, kind of like what the performer would see of the Busenhofer 290, and as you can see, it is just impressive, absolutely impressive. I'll be showing you some close-up photos here in a bit of some details of the inside that you can't see too well from that angle, but I wanted to give you that angle because it's probably the most impressive angle of the Busenhofer 290. You can see that it's wide. It's extra wide for a particular reason if you look in the bass. We'll talk about that later. It's just magnificent. It is a magnificent, magnificent piano. It's just so impressive. You stand here, you stand there, wherever you stand. It looks incredibly impressive. So let me talk about some of the really cool aspects, the little subtle things that make pianos neat to me. And we'll talk about some of the aesthetics and interesting design details. And then we'll talk about the performance here in a little bit. So first of all, here's a little trinket. We have a little knob here that's used to lock the lid when it's closed. This is a distinctly European feature. Asian pianos often have it, like Japanese pianos, Yamaha, QIWI, etc. But it's originally, from my knowledge, a European design. Some Europeans in my comment section are surprised to know that American-made pianos don't often have these, if ever. But in fact, they don't. It's really a European tradition, so it's neat to see that carried on here. Another tradition found in the Busenhofer 290 is the design.
470 тысяч рублей за месяц на Валберес и 450 тысяч на Озон. Продавая...
What I mean by that is the rim. So the rim of the Büsendorfer, and others too, but the 290 in particular, since we're talking about it here, has 3 points. You've got an angle here, you've got an angle there, and you've got an angle at the back end where the rim of the piano meets the spine. And if you look at your piano at home, if you have one, assuming it's not a Büsendorfer, you may not see those angles. It's probably going to be smooth and curved. So why has Büsendorfer gone with the angles? Well, traditionally, in the very early days of piano building, pianos were very much like harpsichords, and in the very earliest days, pianos were built inside of harpsichord cases, which had all straight sides. In the early harpsichords, there were no curves. Later on, curves began being added, but there were still these angles where the curved sections of wood were joined together. Over the years, as wood technology changed and improved, people found ways to make the entire rim of the piano one massive curved piece of wood. But Büsendorfer feels that the thinner rim and joining these pieces together in the old-fashioned way leads to a better sound and a unique visual experience, so they still do it to this day. It's a very, very cool thing that Büsendorfer has that harkens back to the earliest days of the piano building tradition. It's pretty cool. Now, one of the most impressive things about the Imperial, besides its pure size, is the design of the harp. A lot of acoustic pianos have a harp that goes all the way out to the rim of the instrument. Some even have a harp that follows the spine of the piano. Those are called full perimeter plates. Most pianos have a half kind of full perimeter plate that follows the rim all the way around this curved section of the instrument. However, Büsendorfer, kind of like how their rim is connected to the soundboard for more open, flexible design, the harp of the Imperial is also kind of open. You have these massive portholes, those are the names for the holes in the harp here, that are absolutely massive. This one's the size of like an appetizer plate for a restaurant. It's huge. And then you have open. You have these massive portholes, those are the names for the holes in the harp here, that are absolutely massive. This one's the size of like an appetizer plate for a restaurant. It's huge. And then you have these large open sections here where the harp or the frame joins next to the rib only in certain spots. It's not continuous. And it's a very unique thing. I'm not sure if Büsendorfer did this for the open design aspect or simply to try to save weight on this massive hulking beast of a piano. But for whatever reason they decided to do it, it looks awesome. It's really unique. It makes it look beastly and muscly and just hefty. It makes it look awesome. Another neat European design feature that seems to be a little bit less common today is the individual hitching of the strings. These strings have the tuning pin up there and they're hitched. The end of them is back here. And on many American pianos, many Asian pianos, and even some European pianos, the strings are hitched in a looped fashion. One piece of wire can form 2 different individual strings that are struck by different hammers sometimes. However, traditionally the Europeans and the Germans and Austrians as well went with an individually hitched method, which is in many ways superior. If you break one string, you won't lose 2 notes. You'll just lose 1 string of 1 note, and so in that way it is vastly superior, but it is more time-consuming and a little bit more costly, so other manufacturers choose to do the looped hitching method, typically seen in American pianos historically. The individual hitching, though, is a very, very commonly a surefire way to tell that you're looking at a German or European piano, and traditionally it has always been used. You look up here in the high treble and you'll see 3 different hitch pins instead of 1 that has a string looping around it. The color of the harp I always have found to be interesting in Büsendorfer's. It's a rich orange, an earthy orange color. It's really cool. It's kind of changed over the years now. I think it's more of a kind of a peachy salmon with that orange mixed in, but regardless, it looks really cool and it's a very unique. A lot of piano companies use a gold. That Mason Hamlin over there off camera is golden. This is more of an orangey gold. It's really cool. It's almost like the color you'd expect to see a Lambo in or something, except more metallic. It's really cool. But let's go play the Imperial now and see what it's like to play and what it sounds like. It's a very, very magnificent piano to look at, and even more so to hear. Let's go check it out. Many of you, if not all of you, probably know that a horizontally shaped piano is called a grand piano, and I think the Bösendorfer Imperial is the grandest of all grand pianos. You sit here, you look at it, you take in its wideness, you look at how long it is, you can see the intensely just strong-looking harp with its massive portholes and interesting ribbing. It's just a really impressive-looking instrument, and that's not even factoring in the magical business going on down here, which we will, of course, talk about. But what is the playing experience of the Bösendorfer 290 like when you just play it like a normal piano? Well, of course, it's amazing. The tone of the Bösendorfer, but particularly this instrument. Bösendorfer is well known for having a really unique tone that is unlike anything else in the modern piano market. Bösendorfer constructs their instruments differently than everyone else. They use thinner rims that resonate with the soundboard instead of merely being framing and the structural component for the piano. And this results in a more clear, pure tone that really sets Bösendorfer apart. And this one, more so than others that I've played, really has a warm, clear tone that's as warm and clear as the Mediterranean Sea. It's a beautiful, beautiful sound. I think one of the most impressive things is the highest octave, which in many pianos, even some high-end pianos, can be a little bit weak. To be fair, you almost never play these notes. If they're a little bit off, you'll never play them. But on this instrument, they are near perfect. They are crisp and bright. Even the highest note has presence and a little bit of sustain. They are bright and crisp like you would expect from a European piano, and it's just wonderful. But the treble is not the only amazing thing about the tone. The mid-range is warm, clean, clear, and crisp like you might expect from Bösendorfer. And then the bass. Oh, the bass. Due to mysterious copyright reasons, I cannot play any more of that piece, but you can hear the bass. It is amazing. It's deep, it's rich, it's sonorous, it's, well, grand. It's not really any other better word to describe it, but grand. And the action of this instrument, which I would have to assume has been revamped in some way, shape, or form, and I don't know the extent of it. I haven't even looked at it, honestly. I just sat down and fell in love with the instrument, as I'm sure the person who bought this instrument did. But the action of this instrument is just amazing. It has a really deep key bed feel, key dip, so that your fingers go really deep into the key bed when you play it, and it has just a very, very nice, rich, substantial feel like you would expect from the runner action that is used inside this instrument. And I think that's pretty much all of the normal piano aspects of the Bösendorfer 290 that make it amazing. But there's more. But wait, there's more. Piano edition. That's basically the succinct summary of what the 290 is, because you have the entire range of the normal acoustic piano. And I actually played one of these notes when I was doing my weird little thing. There's a whole bunch of extra notes. There's 92 keys on the Bösendorfer Imperial, and I've already done a video of this, which is one of my most successful videos on the channel. But you have to talk about this every time you see a Bösendorfer 290, and you don't run into them very often, so I will mention it once again. These extra notes, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 extra notes, were added way back in the early 1900s, and they were added at the request of famous arranger, I believe, Virgil Busoni.